there was late, very, very late, it has to be said, there was a notice that there was severe weather on the way, and that was sent out after the storm had started. And there was a great deal of criticism of that, including from an Auckland City Councillor, and who had said, well, wait on, this is your job. Auckland Emergency Management should have been able to rely on the Met Service. The Met Service didn't get their act together quickly at time, and in actual fact they put out a warning to do with a thunderstorm and severe risk of flooding after the event had already started. Not much point then. Then, just to make it seemed a folly of the Met Service previous inaction, on the Saturday afternoon they sent 2 emergency blasts across all phones in the Auckland district for a warning of another imminent downpour that I don't think arrived. Well, it certainly didn't arrive where my children were. And nevertheless, it scared the bejesus out of them. Now, as I said, there are questions now as to whether or not Met Service did their job. If you remember rightly, and this again goes back almost a year to Cyclone Gabriel, but the previous weather events in Auckland, there'd been 2. There was also criticism at the time that Met Service's forecasting wasn't up to snuff and wasn't providing the alerts required to allow Aucklanders to take evasive action of a severe storm that was on their way. Well, those same questions appear to be asked after Friday night. And someone who is going to join us and talk to us about this, and also on whether or not there could be an alternative, because I think you've got to understand that I think that Met Service, they are the official sort of weather forecaster in times of civil emergency, from memory. So they have almost a monopolistic role. I mean, that's where the emergency management from Auckland gets their particular lead from. So if they're not working, or they're negligent, or they've made a mistake, or they headed out on holiday themselves and forgot to, in actual fact, turn on the automatic alarm, then, they cop it. Joining us to talk about this this morning is WeatherWatch's founder and head weather analyst Philip Duncan on this particular show, and what might be improved in the future, and whether or not Met Service did a good job at the time, and whether or not they are good at forecasting and can be relied upon in times of civil emergency. And Philip joins us now. Welcome to the show. Lovely to have you on.
Thank you very much for having me.
First of all, mate, WeatherWatch, what are you exactly?
We're the largest private forecaster in New Zealand, basically, as simple as that. We get our weather data from overseas and source it locally as well, and then we tweak it to make it more accurate here, and that's basically what we do. That's what sets us apart from the others.
So you when you say you get your information from overseas, I'm assuming from what, satellites that are sourced, what, the United States and other such places?
Yeah, so we have forecast data that's very accurate. We use the weather company. They used to be owned by IBM. That's finished now, and they own themselves again, and they are the world's most accurate forecaster. Saying that, there are other ones that are very close. You've got AccuWeather up there as well, and you'll see AccuWeather or the weather company forecasts on your iPhones and Android phones, on your computers, things like that. And it's a very good base, but to make it really accurate, you need to put on top of that local New Zealand data, and that's part of the problem that we've actually got here in New Zealand, is a huge lack of data due to the commercialisation of NIWA and Met Service. I'm
going to talk about that in just a second. Friday night, Good Friday night, you've heard me in the introductory comments. I guess you're up there, were you? Are you based in Auckland yourself?
Yes, I am. Yeah, I'm West Auckland. It was full on, yeah.
Yeah, no, my kids were very excited. Can I ask, did Met Service in that particular, I know you're a competitor, but just, take your step back. Did they do a good job or a bad job on Friday night at forecasting the severe weather event?
Just quickly, they see us as competition. I actually see them as my big brother, and I don't, I like to be honest about them and supportive where we can. I think the lead up to that weather on Friday, they certainly were suggesting there were possibilities of severe weather around, But when it came to the actual severe thunderstorm warning, yes, I think that was too late. Possibly the timing of it being so late on a Good Friday, although that should not have any impact for our national weather forecaster, who's given $25 million a year to do that very job, provide warnings. And so this is, as you said, not the first time this has happened. I put it down to the fact that they just are a little bit like, as far as not the people that work there, but the infrastructure they've got is a little bit like Blockbuster Video or United Video, and the rest of us are all on Netflix. And so the government is propping up an old system that is fairly average, and we've got ways to fix what is already there now, using the data that already exists and using digital technology. Thunderstorms like what we had on Friday night, sure, you're warning for it's always tricky, because if the storm itself is forming right above you, it's not moving from A to B to C, as our weather so often does. You see it on the rain radar and it's moving towards you. Sometimes it forms over the top of you at the same time that it's moving along, and that's what we saw on Friday night. And what you actually noticed on the map was this explosive rain cloud that formed over Auckland, and then it stretched southwards as it went down the North Island, but it stayed over Auckland for a long time. That part is hard to work out at the moment when you're watching it. You're sort of seeing it tracking along and you're wondering if the whole thing is going to move. Maybe we'll wait another 10 minutes to do a warning, or another 20 minutes to sort of really get a feel for it. That does sometimes happen, but I think this one was very delayed. And if we had open data in New Zealand, this just would be sign of the times, this sort of stuff. It would be gone.
Okay, so you talked about open data. What is open data? Could you tell us, please?
Put it really simply, it's infrastructure that we have collectively either tax funded or volunteered. When I was a teenager and I got interested in meteorology, the local information centre in the domain where I lived in Te Aroha in eastern Waikato, we used to volunteer every single morning the statistics that showed up on the weather station there that used to be part of the DSIR, and then it became NIWA. And so we volunteered, like many people around the country, volunteered this information. Now NIWA calls it their intellectual property. They commercialise it and they block access to it by making the price $1 million a year, for example, to access something that's free in every other modern country. And they do that to hold on to their commercial point of difference, their unique selling point. If they didn't have that, they'd then have to compete on ideas. And that's hard for the government to do, especially with all the bureaucracy. So it's a really frustrating situation that information that we've all collectively paid for as taxpayers cannot be used by the government, the councils around the country freely and openly, or private companies like WeatherWatch or farmers.
And you're saying that in a particular case like that, if that raw live data had been available, do you think that would have made a difference, well, to people like yourself, alternative weather forecasting companies, and the ability to inform your subscribers of that danger?
Absolutely. We've had the technology since before the Auckland anniversary floods and before Cyclone Gabrielle to automatically warn when the rain radar gets to a certain point. So if you're watching the radar and you see those purple areas that start to pop up, that's a sign of very high level clouds. You don't always have to have a thunderstorm with it, but when they get that high, the rain is heavy. We've got the technology to take that and put those alerts out. What's stopping us, and by the way, we're working with some really good people at MetService. The people we're dealing with there want to work with us. They want to help, but it's been 3 or 4 years since the Commerce Commission said that we should be able to get this data, and we still don't have it because we have to then make a business case to the MetService so that they make money on it. And that's what bugs me. People accuse me of being commercial and competing with them. I'm the only one trying to make a free product for the public that can be used in moments like that, where rather than waiting for a human being to get their stuff together and then tell the civil defense and then have them scramble, It just rings your phone and says it's happening now. If the warning comes out 10 minutes later, that's good, but you need that warning first of all once it's already started.
Understood. There is, as you know, I mean, it's almost a dysfunctional and an appalling dysfunctional relationship between the Met Service and NIWA, which the government, almost like a Gordian knot, are trying to cleave or achieve something out of. I think we've had a minister on that in the time that I've been on the platform. Can you tell me if there's any progress being made in that direction that you're aware of?